Some people love name dropping, thinking it makes them look cooler. I'm getting that kind of vibe from this. And with that being the case, this is how Taylor Swift is giving Blake Lively the metaphorical finger. In 2024, they spent the Super Bowl together. That is no longer happening. Reports from Taylor's camp say Taylor Swift is purposefully not inviting Blake to a Super Bowl suite this year. She's also reportedly distancing herself from Blake Lively and reconsidering their whole friendship. Now, whether or not Taylor's lying about being involved, it could be Blake just name dropping her idol so much that she became guilty by association. All the stories that Taylor Swift's camp has been clarifying or removing her from, it doesn't sound unreasonable, except the idea that Taylor Swift influenced the set to fire the original movie composer Brian Tyler just so she could approve her song My Hair's Ricochet, whatever. Whew. So, how many of you remember the intro?
Hi, my question for Army on Gossip Girl. Who was the biggest diva on set?
Let me just say, that was a tough show to film. I didn't end up actually filming all of the episodes I was supposed to.
So that's Army Hammer. He played the character Gabriel Edwards, Blake Lively's love interest in Gossip Girl Season 2. Now, before this interview, there were reports of him being let go from the show a lot earlier than they originally planned. He never spoke out on the subject until May 25th, 2017, where he guest starred on Live with Andy Cohen. He finally gave us some insight about his time on Gossip Girls.
Literally, you said, get me out of this.
It was also like, get him out of here.
Whose love interest were you?
Blake Lively's love interest.
You were?
Yeah.
Okay, well
Sounds
then.
like she was the problem.
It sure does, Chelsea.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
It's exactly what he's saying. One more time.
Whose love interest were you?
Blake Lively's love
You
interest.
were.
Sounds like she was the problem.
It sure does, Chelsea.
No, that's not what I'm
That's
saying.
exactly what I was thinking.
I don't know. That little eyebrow raise is pretty telling. Now, there's reports out there claiming the reason for his early departure was Blake Lively pushing him out, which he alluded to on the Andy Cohen show. But also, during the filming of an episode, he got really fed up with Lively and called her an insufferable bitch. Which is a great choice of words. And that was the last straw that caused his immediate termination. Where do I even start? I'll try to make this clear. This all initially started with Blake Lively joining the production of It Ends With Us and immediately requesting an executive producer credit. Right after, she proceeds to be the most difficult bitch on planet Earth. Let's go through her greatest hits. She cost the wardrobe department an additional $430,000 buying new designer clothes and delivering them to her New York penthouse, even though she claims to be very aware of the budget.
Hi, welcome back to Muppet Sunshine. It's me, Muppet Sunshine. The program is mine. I host a few things. I talk about crime. I put a few interviews up that I enjoy. Today, I watch Candace Owens a lot, and I love to keep up with the Blake Lively case. I say Blake Lively case because it's all about Blake Lively. And I was watching about it before. I never realised how much of a groupie she was, at the beginning, Blake Lively. And Candace talks about it here, and she talks about the letter that Wayfarer sent in to the court, because basically, I'll let you know anyway. Well, she tells us that she explains it better, Candace. But what really interests me is the way Blake Lively got into the business in the first place. Like, she just show up set and just place herself round and look pretty, and she basically says it in her own words, like that as well. And I just, hopefully get seen, and that's how she got her career started. She didn't go to Julianne like Adam Driver or anything. She just showed up looking pretty, and she comes across as quite surface level individual, I just find interesting people. I find that interesting. Put that aside, right? You then have Justin Bondoni, who's like a beautiful Italian man. He's he's got a good sort of warm heart, and he plays the villain in this film. What's the name of the film? I haven't watched it yet, but I'm not into rom-coms, so you won't catch me. I mean, if it's got Adam Driver in, I might watch it, but I won't really watch anything unless it's got a sci-fi theme to it, really. But it'll come to me if You Were Me or something. It's called, right? Like, Paul Downey is the producer, the director, the actor in it. It's very Cannes Film Festival level type of film, you know. It's arty wise, you know. I think small independent label, Wayfair, and like he's not like been treated very well by Blake Lively or Ryan Reynolds, her husband, which doesn't surprise me one bit. You know, she seems so hungry and desperate in the eyes, you know, that you can sort of spot that in people, you know, and you can sort of see that she did more than give him a hard time. But to the point, I think she had feelings for him. In my opinion, she's developed something cardinal perhaps for him, because she got her husband then on board with it. You know, she's felt abashed by like his refusal to probably take her up on an advance kiss, seeing that meant more to her perhaps, and also you get that sort of feeling that he went, no thanks, I'm married. And, you know, I can imagine that didn't hit well when she just probably went, oh, okay then, or, you know, went about her life. He may have, like, was texting back on, she was texting him on days like 14th of February and things of that nature. Why are you texting someone else's husband on that date? You don't do that, you know. It's sort of thing that Candace is picking up on as well, I know. I hats off to this lady. She does her research. I read things for fun, but this lady, honest to God, she's honestly, she's one of my heroes of YouTube. I think she's brilliant, and it's so obvious when you realise it that, you know, there's been some chemistry that he's able to put it in a little box again, probably because of his, I don't know if he's Italian, looks Italian, but it's a little way you have about it, and people probably, you know, take him, ooh, he's, you know, he's quite, you know, he's, ooh, you know what I mean? But he's married after all. So, you know, but apparently she's got a history, she's got a formula, you know. I've never cheated. I don't understand what the point in being in a relationship is, unless you're not sure if you're like that. I don't know, but anyway, okay. No one's perfect, but that's how she apparently met Ryan Reynolds in the first place, when he was married to Scarlett Johansson. And Scarlett Johansson, I mean, woo, you know, and you think he met Blake Lively on a double date and thought she was interesting, right? Okay, she must have targeted, you know, just probably, you know, both as shallow as each other. I just don't like Ryan Reynolds because I just think he just couldn't handle Scarlett's amazing beauty and hairstyling. I mean, she is beautiful. And I think, wow, you hit the fucking jackpot there, when I seen him when she was in Lost Translation or something. And I thought, how could he get it? How could he get it? You know? Probably hounded her to death. But yeah, ended up with Scarlett Johansson. And he cheated on her with Blake Lively, out of all people. I thought, wow. You know? I didn't watch Gossip Girl. I've never watched programs. I'm not gonna know who she is either, to be fair. I read about Scarlett Johansson, and next thing he's with this other girl I'd never heard of. So I thought, oh, I see. Okay, couldn't handle someone being more talented, good looking than him as well, because Scarlett was the better looking. I mean, he's got beady eyes and stuff. I'm not getting personal, but come on. And then, like, you think, on my word, this lady's an absolute crackpot to add to it. Blake Lively, she's basically accused the man of watching his wife's giving birth video. And she was naked, apparently. It was meant to be beautiful and all that. Well, she's had 4 children, you know what I mean? It's not like... And she was just about to have baby or something. And he's probably just gone, you know, my brother came to my last one. My daughter, I shit myself. When you're giving birth, you are in panic mode. You don't care, yeah? If you're naked or you're your dignity gets fucking out the window. I had to give birth, obviously. I have thin clothing on, thank God, but it was hard. And I have my best friend there as well. She's no longer with me, but I've got best soul. But I, at the end of the day, don't feel that she has... He was explaining what giving birth and all that. Now, okay, he's a bloke, you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. You can do all that and I still work with the man, you know what I mean? Put up with him trying to be interested in feminism and all that business. But to call a man a pervert is another thing entirely. I mean, he's on set with that, right? He's got his friend there. He must have felt nervous in the end because you can tell by the lawsuits as it progresses that he felt nervous being on set with her when she was doing certain scenes. This is what it seems like to me. And she's made it look like he's brought his executives down to see her fanny and have everybody see it on set, and that make her feel vulnerable and he hard about it. And I don't think so. He just doesn't strike me that type at all. You know, he's just not. You know what I mean? He doesn't hide he doesn't hide it behind. There's nothing. He's all about talking about men. He's all about bigging up masculinity, how we should be more feminine, how we have to treat women. He treats his wife well. He's got a child. He's not about that life. You know, he's no friggin'... The way she painted him in that lawsuit, she made him sound like Andrew Tate. You know what I mean? It was so disgusting. And I don't think she'll be able to work with people on that level, or they'd be very fucking and, hey, get your fucking job done, know your place, bitch. That's how it'll be for her now. You know, she's done that to herself, and the hard thing is, it's also the amount of followers that she's losing. She's lost over 500,000 followers or so far, and it's so weird, you know, how 4 months ago, we were back liking her again, if you know what I mean. But we obviously do see through people, and in time, I hope as a society we get treated a little bit more with respect, in the sense where governments treating people now with AI, the AI copyright and everything, you know, they're taking it without your consent, not telling you, you know what I mean, and then you have to opt out, you know. So it's coming to that sort of way of life now, you know what I mean. So we have to take a stance as a society, above all else, you know what I mean, against government more than ever, and more about correcting things and making things right, like Donald Trump is. I think I've liked Donald Trump about 3 or 4 times now, like over the years, you know. But this time, I think I'm right. I think I was wrong for being hard on him. Actually, you know what I mean. It was over the January 6th thing. It was nothing else. I loved him until then, you know. But I can see that a lot of these people and this type of degenerates like Lively will be put in a place a lot by the legislations he's putting in place, and I hope it trickles all the way down to fucking England, because it needs to, you know. The government needs to be put in its place, you know, in England, especially with AI, you know. So I feel it's refreshing to see that you know what? We can't see, you know, we talk about domestic violence, and we talk about sexual assault on a serious level on this channel. So when you hear that, basically this man was getting assaulted, this man was getting controlled by a woman, this man felt, you know, he felt like vulnerable on set. This man has had to vent himself now, you know, because his wife, his life has been on hold because of everything that woman's been putting him through for the last, God knows, 4 years. He's been trying to put this film out. 4 years without her problematic ways. That must be hard, you know what I mean? Well, anyway, I'm going to put this section of Candace on for you. And if you're interested in the case, it's going to clarify anyway a little bit of where his company and where everything stands. And I'm gonna try and put it in the right direction. Yeah, the paperwork, you see.
I wanted to add also that in this lawsuit, along things have happened. The author has a social media account has just gone off Instagram, and then come back on again. I want to point out that maybe she did unfollow Justin Baldoni because this is traumatic for her. This is like reliving something that she has been through in the past. And it's probably very difficult for this lady to talk about it. And I feel Blake has done something more than she even realised. She's triggered somebody's trauma. She's lied about something so close to home, and wow, you know, I think this is going to be a real nasty case, you know, if it continues and doesn't get settled. But because Baldoni is the way he is, a smart man, I don't think he will do that. He will probably settle out of court with her, just because of the absolute mayhem it's caused his issues. Are to protect the lady who gave him the story in the first place, and I feel Blake has put him in a very vulnerable position with the author who wrote the book and who he was inspired by. I mean, it's a real shit show of a real storm, really, making allegations that he was being immoral, deprived, using it, taking advantage. The lady is after seeing that Forbes interview, she screams groupie to me, you know. She likes to take over. Maybe she shouldn't have been why be an actress then in the first place if you can't keep into your lane? I mean, you're interfering with something you have no place to be. And Blake Lively has been exposed in loads of different interviews, in people looking back in time, and I feel she shouldn't have been an actress. If you couldn't help yourself but interfere in a way you did, you don't belong just to be a pretty piece or whatever acting position that it is, to be in that position. Yeah, you experiment with ideas and with personality of characters, perhaps. You know, I watch Star Wars. I watch a lot of actors and that, and you know, a lot of them are theatre trained, and the method actors, they don't change story roles, storylines, and things like that. She's had to stick to a story in this because of the author, Colleen Hoover's book. She's had to stick to the script, and it must have killed her not to interfere with the story. And Baldoni, rightfully so, wanted to stick to the story, and Blake could not help but interfere in that, and she didn't expect him to process or to have the strength after everything she did to fight against it. I'm glad he is standing up for himself on this, because, you know, because of the type of film it is, and the story is a true story. I'm realised after everything I've just filmed just now. I just wanted to mention that, because I think that Colleen Hoover is the victim of this story, and you have, I think Justin Baldoni is rightly kept quiet, because the integrity and the trauma of that lady has been through, and to write a story like that, she never asked for this amount of publicity. She didn't ask for the negativity involved. It's not nice, and rightfully, it's disgusting, you know. But yeah, here's Candice now talking about the process so far and the up to date.
Is quite the nickname for Blake Lively. So he posts this video, and then it gets taken down from TikTok on February 6th, right? And he told me that when he looked into why it got taken down, essentially they received some sort of a legal threat in the background that, like, they could go after them for something defamatory in the video. So social media companies are not here to investigate. They're not here to be judges and lawyers, but having a lawyer email you on behalf of a client, and if it's an A-list client, saying, like, we're going to come after you, TikTok, for allowing this defamation to exist on the platform, they're not going to take a risk. They're not going to be like, I'm going to go with Marcos, right? I'm going to be like, listen, this person seems like they have a lot of money, they got a lot of power, I'm just going to take this TikTok video down. And that's what happened. And he was infuriated about this, and he essentially started tagging Brian Friedman's team and saying, like, hey, if you want, like, something that you should be looking into, and potentially this could happen, you should be subpoenaing TikTok, because if her entire argument is that Justin Baldoni and the Wayfarer team manipulated the press, and she's doing the exact same thing right now, meaning she's upset about TikTokers coming out with information or believing that TikTokers are leaking information, well, then that kind of defeats her own argument. And so Marcos somehow was able to get this video reinstated by basically saying in TikTok, this is ridiculous. This is free speech. He said allegedly. He didn't say, like, this is confirmed. He said exactly how he heard it as a source. This is what, like, journalism is called. This is what you do when you report. You get information, you give it to the public, and you give them exactly how you receive that information, which is like, this is allegedly, but it's a strong source. So we should probably, by the way, that's a major clue here, and everything that I'm seeing indicates that he's right. So that language in that first hearing, we might add a plaintiff. We're going to ask them to accept service, but if not, then we'll just subpoena. It's like, okay, so is the plaintiff willing to do this? Or do you feel like you can get this person to join this suit? Or is this person fighting you? We don't know. So that's on February 6th. We should talk about Jenny Slate in general, or why I just haven't even been speaking about Jenny Slate. Like, genuinely, I didn't mention her. She played some role in the movie, and she instantly, when Blake Lively filed her complaint, did not mince words. She didn't try to make it seem like she wasn't picking a side. She strongly picked Blake Lively's side. This was a statement she released. She said, as Blake Lively's castmate and friend, I voice my support as she takes action against those reported to have planned and carried out an attack on her reputation. Blake is a leader, loyal friend, and a trusted source of emotional support for me and so many who know and love her. What has been revealed about the attack on Blake is terribly dark, disturbing, and wholly threatening, she added. I commend my friend. I admire her bravery, and I stand by her side. Okay, so the reason why I kind of ignored Jenny Slate and all this is because, like, I just get vibes from people, and I just felt like that statement was just very theater kid. It was way too much, and it's just like, I don't really need to care about this. There's something about her that just registered to me, and I don't say this in, like, a derogatory way, but just, like, doing too much. And I could imagine very simply that she got wrapped into this, like, Blake Lively spell of just, like, I'm gonna be the most amazing person. The fact that she, like, called her, like, an emotional support puppy, like one of these people on, like, on a plane who's like, I can't fly without my puppy, you know? I just was like, it's too much. It's too much too fast, and I just didn't think it was relevant to looking into everything. But I will say, it is likely that similarly, she was under this spell of the Reynolds family, and she wanted to feel like the A-list love, like she just wanted to hang out with them 1 degree closer to Taylor Swift. Who knows, maybe Taylor Swift even sprinkled a little glitter on her at a concert. We don't know what the connection is there, but she probably believed Blake Lively, and Blake Lively has proven, Ryan Reynolds has proven to be actually the smartest in the room and was likely manipulating her. And it is likely, this is my guess, that Blake and Ryan have messages with her, because if she's that dramatic in a release statement, she probably was even more dramatic in, like, just being the friend that supports your friend even when you know you're lying. Like, women lie to each other. Like, we have to be honest about this. This kind of gets into when I was going over, like, the fat acceptance movement, and you would see, like, pictures of people like Lena Dunham wearing a bathing suit and, like, a bunch of women in the comments being like, you look amazing. And it's like, okay, why are we doing that? Because we want to make each other feel good. That's like what women do. We just want to be the emotional support to your friend. Like, you know, maybe her outfit doesn't look great, and she's like, how do I look? You're like, you look so hot. You know, you look amazing. It's just this weird thing that women do. I don't know why, but we lie to each other on the internet. I see it all the time. I want to call it out. I want to be like the internet police and be like, you know, that's not true.
Yeah, I think that's not very nice to do to women. You know what I mean? Make people walk around with, like, not the nicest outfit on, or walk around with something on their face or something. Go get out of that. I don't like it. My daughter doesn't do it. I don't like to do it, you know. I can't do it. I physically repulse on it. I can't do a Facebook account because I upset people. I genuinely don't know what's wrong with people. They can't take it. But, or maybe you shouldn't lock your child in a bedroom. It could go on fire, you know. I'll go, and then I got annihilated off for that, you know. But, just lock your kid in, and then before the fucking fire breaks out, okay then. You know, do you know what I mean? You just get to a point where, you know, the fucking planet's gone crazy. So, you know, please, just be nice to people and tell them that they look maybe not the best, or, like, you know, privately perhaps. You know, don't do it on the friggin' comments, like.
Stop supporting your friends when they're doing bad or harmful things. I think Jenny Slate, again, full opinion, full speculation, was that girl in the room who just wanted to, like, support whatever Blake was saying. And she probably texted her and was like, me too. You know, I felt weird and creepy too, or whatever. So Blake and Ryan are all out of cards, and they've got nothing to prove this right now. And they're like, could we get Jenny Slate, the friend that nodded her head and said yes to everything to us, to join this lawsuit, to give it just a little bit more of a punch? Like, no, it was two of us that felt that we were harassed on set sexually. Like, you know, Justin Baldoni was just so into Jenny Slate too, so into me. Also, he wasn't into me because I'm also accusing him of treating me fat, but don't worry about how those two things cancel each other out.
Well, that's a very smart thing of Kansas to point out. Maybe Jenny Smart or whatever said to Blake, yeah, maybe he was just giving her the friggin' creeps one day, you know what I mean, or his feminism itched her too much, or, you know, and she's gone to Blake in support, Yeah, he's a bit creepy today, yeah. I say that about anyone, creepy custard, you know, or anything it could be. I mean, you gotta... and what will happen anyway? What will happen because of that? Sorry, I lost my point, but what will happen because of that? She'll be subpoenaed, as Kansas says, right, to be going as a plaintiff to this trial, even if she doesn't want to go. You know what I mean?
This lawsuit, but like, we have text messages with Jenny Slate, and I do think she was just being the raw friend. She just gives me that vibe. So it's interesting. It's very interesting to consider her as a potential piece of this. Again, he's saying allegedly. I know nothing of this. I was not contacted by anybody potentially in Jenny Slate's orbit, but we can begin to look at what just happened, okay? So on February 10th, 2 days ago, Blake Lively's team, having just told them on February 3rd, like, we're going to add new people we're going to amend our complaint, and we're going to add some new plaintiffs and maybe try to serve them, then filed 2 days ago for an extension. They're like, actually, we're not going to be able to make that amendment due date of February 14th. So I'm showing you what they filed, and then I'm just going to take you to the relevant points. Their lawyer wrote to Dear Judge Lehman, February 14th, 2025 is the original default deadline for Ms. Lively to file her amended complaint. As a matter of course, in relation to responsive pleadings of Wayfarer Studios, LLC. Then they go on to say, Ms. Lively respectfully submits that an extension for filing an amended complaint as a matter of course to March 5th, 2025 is warranted. So essentially, this is due February 14th. We're asking you to extend until March 5th. And then the reason she lists here for why she needs that extension is bizarre. She says, the modest extension will allow for Ms. Lively to address the extensive new facts and claims at issue in this litigation. Such an extension is also warranted given that after counsel for Ms. Lively informed the court on February 3rd that she intended to amend her complaint to additional parties and claims, one of those intended parties, Jed Wallace, along with his company Street Relations, filed an anticipatory and meritless 10-page complaint in the federal district court in Texas regarding issues that substantially overlap with the issues in this litigation. The additional time requested will allow Ms. Lively to address properly the procedural issues arising from this unmeritorious lawsuit as well. So she's saying, remember we talked about Jed, who she came after in her CRD filing. Well, Jed, and then she had to file that in Texas. Well, Jed responded similarly to Brian Friedman responding on behalf of Wayfarer, but this is a totally separate suit that's happening in Texas. And she's trying to justify an extension because he filed his response, which he would have had to do to her lawsuit. That makes entirely no sense. Anyways, because Brian Friedman is Brian Friedman, he hits them back pretty hard in his response. He writes back on behalf of Wayfarer and says, notwithstanding the Lively party's inexplicable refusal to consent to a similar extension requested by the Wayfarer parties in the throes of the Los Angeles wildfires, shade, the Wayfarer parties have no objection to the extension sought by the Lively parties. They're like, whatever, take your extension. We don't even care. But if you do take your extension, then we're asking for an extension beyond that, essentially to allow us to respond thereto on April 16th. But then he hits her hard on this weird attempt to lie to the judge about Jed Wallace. And he says, unfortunately, the Lively party's letter goes further than a simple request for an extension of time, leveling unnecessary and baseless attacks on non-party Jed Wallace and the litigation pending against Ms. Lively in the USDC for the Western District of Texas. What Lively parties conspicuously failed to mention is that the now pending litigation in Texas was precipitated by Ms. Lively, who initiated legal action against Mr. Wallace in Texas State Court on January 21st, approximately 2 weeks before he filed his federal lawsuit in response. While the Lively parties now claim that Mr. Wallace's Texas actions suffer from serious issues with respect to jurisdiction, In Miss Lively's verified petition seeking a pre-suit deposition of Mr. Wallace, Ms. Lively acknowledges that the jurisdiction in Texas is proper given Mr. Wallace's domicile. So he's like, I have no idea why she's lying to the court, and then he attaches her initial petition in Texas, which is just so embarrassing, right? It's the same tactic that they're doing over and over again of trying to manipulate the courts to get what they want, thinking that people are not going to keep receipts. Like, hi, have you met Brian Friedman yet? I know I haven't, but I wouldn't try this game. I wouldn't try trying to manipulate Judge Lehman and trying to tell him, I need this extension because this guy Jed did this crazy thing and filed somewhere where he doesn't have jurisdiction, as if Brian Friedman's not going to pull up and be like, actually, you established his jurisdiction. You filed first in Texas, and he's replying, and by the way, he's not a party to our case here in New York. That's what Brian Friedman did. He's just a savage. Brian Friedman is actually my spirit animal. Anyways, Judge Lehman responds to this order and he slaps down. He just slaps her down. I don't know what else to say. Probably because he probably doesn't take kind to just being manipulated. You know, you should have been like, I want an extension because I don't have any proof. I need to potentially, allegedly, kind of try to get someone to join this suit. Please, Colleen Hoover, didn't you see something? Did you see him look at my butt? I don't know. Can somebody please just join in? Maybe young Lily Bloom, Elizabeth Farrer, did you see something that you didn't like? Like she's trying. They're essentially trying to lobby someone to give this thing some teeth. And so this is the judge's order. He comes back and he says, order granting in part and denying in part the letter motion for the extension of time to file. He added 1 day. So it's supposed to be February 14th. That's a Friday that their amended filing was due. He bumped it to February 17th, which is a Monday, which is also a holiday. So I think it's still February 14th. I don't know, but which would be over the weekend, that would be the first Monday. And so, yeah, he gives an answer. The Lively parties have not offered good cause for any further extension. And so maybe you just shouldn't have lied about why you needed the extension, because that's not a good cause to talk about what's happening in Texas. It has nothing to do with this case. So completely shut down. All right, guys, I got to get to talking to you about Ryan Reynolds' teacher emailing me. Okay, that it's interesting. It's very interesting. Before we do that, got to throw it to some of our sponsors. Home Title Lock, first and foremost, because did you know that American homeowners nationwide have over $32 trillion in equity, and cyber criminals are targeting it with a growing scam that the FBI calls house stealing. So scammers can now transfer your title. Women's Summit, and this is from 2022, and she's just sort of casually discussing how, she lies and she takes over movies. Take a listen.
I would show up on a set. I knew that they just wanted me to show up and look cute and stand on a little pink sticker where I'm supposed to go and say what I'm supposed to say. But I also knew that that wasn't fulfilling for me, that I wanted to be a part of the storytelling, that I wanted to be a part of the narrative, whether that be in the writing, in the costume design, in creating the character. And sometimes I had directors or producers or writers who would welcome that and invite that once they saw that I was able to offer that. And sometimes I would have people who really resented that because they were like, we just hired you to be an actor. Yet when I went in the meetings, I would just seem like I'm just there to be the actor and ready to get the gig. I wouldn't reveal that I actually need to have authorship in order to feel fulfilled. So I think that for them, sometimes that might have felt like a rug pull because you're like, you're trying to assert yourself into something that we didn't hire you to do. And so it was a really strange position to be in because I felt like I don't want to just be an actor. I want to have more authorship.
Yeah, I bet it did feel like a bit of a rug pull. I would say this. Blake Lively, I almost appreciate her because she doesn't know she's insane. She doesn't know how insane that sounds. And whoever was sitting across from her had to nod and go along with this. And you're going, wait, you're basically saying you're a liar. You misrepresent who you are. Maybe that has something to do with why you're now being sued for promissory fraud, because you're admitting that you go in there and you're like, yeah, I'd like to be an actor. And then you take over everything. I mean, so imagine taking this out of the context of celebrities, and you call a plumber to come fix your toilet. And he's in there and he's like, hey, I'm actually going to reorganize your closet. And you're like, no, actually, I'm good. Could you just fix the toilet? And he's like, no, I'm here to be your dad. I want to be your dad now. And you're like, no, I don't want you to be my dad. I want you to fix the toilet. That's what I hired you for. It's a job that I hired you for. And he's like, where's your baby? I want to hold the baby and burp the baby. And you're like, I don't need you to burp my baby. You're not my husband. Well, I can be more. I can be more than your plumber. I can be your husband. And you're going, what's going on? Why do I feel like I need to call the police? Why do I feel like I need to call Brian Friedman? This is insane. What are you talking about? She genuinely is not aware of how insane she sounds. And if you're wondering, like, hey, Blake, if you want to be that person, if you want to be a director, or if you want to be the writer, why don't you just go be that? You're allowed to be a director. You're allowed to be a writer.
That's it. That's what happened with Baldoni, you know. I mean, he's brought his person on set because the kettle's completely unhinged. And, you know, Candace, she's valid on what she's saying. It's like, wow, you know, this woman.
Just right. Well, actually, there's an answer to that. She had an interview, a written interview with Vogue that was released in August of 2024. And here's what she said. Okay. By the way, it's amazing that she still is able to be a bit bratty in this email when somebody asks her a totally basic question about her baking, because she always speaks about her baking and it's all over her Instagram. But here's what she said to the interviewer. The interviewer writes, I ask if she writes. Blake tilts her head, suddenly curious. She plays with the big blue ring on her finger. My husband did an interview where they asked, what's something surprising that people don't know about your wife? And he said, it's that she's a writer. She writes on every movie she works on. And the interviewer said, and the baking? And the baking, right? She's a great baker. It was just such an interesting moment. I don't know if it's a female thing or not, but they always want to talk about the baking. And then the writer said, I'm sorry,
She always says they, or they always, or who are they she's talking about? Every interview she see her in, she speaks like this. And I can imagine she's hostile, you know, quite hostile and a fuse, you know.
Asked to bake together. I say a little abashed. I'm a terrible baker. And then she says, why did you ask about the writing? I say the question occurred to me the night before. I had read about all of her creative endeavors and something about that restlessness felt familiar. Later, Feig will confirm that she worked to bring about her vision for a character. She did work on her dialogue to make that happen, he will say admiringly, and it just brought everything to life. I ask Lively if she would ever write something from scratch. She considers this. She says, quote, a blank page is not nearly as exciting to me as starting with a script and finding something people have overlooked, saying, no, there's something here. To me, it's a treasure hunt. And so when I can see the treasure, then I get to be an archaeologist. I get to excavate. I get to carve it out and find this thing and show people the value in it. That, to me, is what I want to, can't say that last word, what I love. Okay, so she's essentially saying I like to just take over people's work, and that's insane and that's crazy. And this is a reason why I think in the future people are just not going to work with her, because it's starting to add up. People are realizing that this is a pathology. And regarding Ryan Reynolds, I have received, just to be clear, a ton.
As a person who's like watched, you know, like lots of films, actors do that generally, but keep it to themselves and bring it out in the lines. They don't literally carve all of the fucking script up and say, I'm gonna do it this fucking way. What the fuck is she doing? It's like, what the fuck is she doing as an actress? That's not how that's not very professional. You know, I mean, you're basically saying everything he's worked hard for, right? Before coming to you to do your part, you're going to override everything they've done and their ideas. You're going to make out they're yours. Yeah, I see.
Of emails and tips about him, people that worked as his stunt double, people that worked as Blake Lively's stunt double, and I'm trying to bring to the public what I think is relevant in terms of this case, and I don't share everything because sometimes I think it's just unfair. Like if somebody says, oh, I dated him 20 years ago, you know, he was majorly into drugs. I've gotten these sorts of emails. I'm like, okay, well, 20 years ago, how old was he? 28? Is that really relevant? Whatever. Or the saying that he smokes pot, by the way, to be clear there. These sorts of things don't seem relevant to me, but this one I thought was relevant, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because it is somebody that is sharing an experience from his childhood. It is also somebody who has to be at least 70 years old in order to have been the drama teacher, assuming a teacher is going to be about 20 years old if they're literally just starting their career, and had Ryan Reynolds in his class and felt the need to reach out. And I think Ryan Reynolds' childhood is actually relevant because Ryan Reynolds himself oddly interjected his childhood traumas into this entire thing. Remember in Deadpool, he's speaking about, I gotta address my childhood traumas, like making fun of Justin Baldoni. But then there was that really weird promo with his mom for It Ends With Us, and they started speaking about his relationship with his dad and how he had unresolved issues with his dad. So let's take a listen to what he says.
I don't feel very comfortable asking this question.
Nope, I got it. I'll get it. Here, I can do that. You're not going to read it? I will then. Okay, thank you very well. That's the one. It says Ryan would love to have a new dad to have a catch. And I think he could really use a man in his life. Hugh is no spring chicken anymore. Blink once for yes, or blink once for I'd love to be your new dad. He blinked. He blinked. Is this hell?
No, it's Iowa. That's from Field of Dreams. It's one of Ryan's favorite movies because he and his late father had so much unresolved sadness. But pride got in the way, and neither of them were able to find closure. Ryan thinks Field of Dreams is a true story because he's on meth, and that drug is super scary.
Mrs. Reynolds.
Call me Blake.
Oh,
I could blow your mind, dog.
Okay, so it was very weird. And like I told you in past interviews, Ryan has spoken about this like relationship with his father, and that's the reason why he's so insane and controlling. He's spoken about how it made him a bit of a control freak because his dad used to yell or whatever. Seems very clear if that's the circumstance, Ryan is kind of becoming, maybe taking on some elements of his father. But this message arrived in my box, and it's about his first drama teacher from when he was 13 years old. And I think it's interesting to share. And again, this is going to be a much older person. I think that's relevant because there are two people who always tell the truth, and that's senior citizens and toddlers. They just get to a place where they just constantly are telling you the truth about everything, and they don't care what anybody has to think about it or say about it. And so this individual wrote this. I'm cutting off the person's name, obviously, because I'm afraid Ryan Reynolds will go after him. It came in from Alberta, Canada. He said, "It may be an odd thing. I was his first acting teacher. True. Summer 1989, he was 12. His parents had gone on a vacation, so grandparents he was left with had him for 3 weeks, as I recall. After a week, they enrolled him in my classes, essentially, as I found out, because they needed a break from him. Within the first 3 days, I had had enough. The other kids had had enough, and their parents were complaining because everything was about him. Self-centered, loud, sneaky, obnoxious, narcissistic, unkind, and deceitful. I spoke to the grandparents that he needed to abide by the expectations, or I'd punt him and give them a refund. The next day, same old, so I kicked him out. 2 days back with the grandparents, they begged me to take him back, so I said on a couple of conditions. I drew up a quote-unquote contract, essentially reiterating the initial expectations, but adding some behavioral things that I had noticed that needed to be addressed. And he had to write an apology letter to the class and either read it to the class or memorize it and present it to the class like a script. And if the other students said no, then no it would be. But I did hold the final say. I work with kids in mental health. I have for decades. This was nothing new to me. So he returned. The kids were a bit shocked, but he was on probation. And then he was asked, Ryan, is there something that you'd like to say to other students here? Yes, if I may. He got up, audience of 15 plus kids, paper in hand. He glanced down at it, started to read it, then stuttered, cleared his throat, swallowed, then started without the paper. Tears started to well in his eyes. I'm so sorry that I, heavy breathing, selfishly stole time from you all as Mr. David was trying to teach us all about acting, and I made it about me. And I just want to say that I will do my best to listen and will try really hard not to interrupt. Tears now. And it's just that nobody really listens to me. So sniff, I will try my best to be better. Sorry, full tears. The kids were on their feet, over to give him a hug, etc. Can he come back to our class, please? So I said yes. A few minutes later, he passes by me and under his breath utters, I was acting. Oh my God, it was very very, like, scary. I don't know. So I stopped him from walking away and I whispered, I know. I guess he had learned something, but there was a streak in him. I wouldn't trust him. I didn't know if it was evil, insecurity, a ton, fear, psychopathy, arrogance, or just a sociopath, but he was 12. He never says he took an acting course. He turned 13 in October. He had the it factor. I think I still have his first headshot in a box somewhere with 100 other kids that I taught. I just felt like I should share that. I don't know. That one, for some reason, to me, first off, hit to the...
Wow. 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 Just Ryan Reynolds. Wow. I knew he was something else.
The fact that, like, there is some issues in his background.
There's something very annoying about him. There is. I don't know what. I thought Scarlett would just dump him, you know. I thought, and to see how he's behaved in his life following that, it's like he's not behaved any different from the behaviour he's had as a child. Me. His family faddy, all his family fadders, it did nothing but listen to the boy. It weren't enough. This man has just got a lot of issues. I don't know if it was due to his father. I'm not sure what it could be, you know what I mean, with these type of people. Oppression, tyranny, you know, you don't have to hit a child to make them feel like a fucking tyrant and monster is in the corner, you know. And I feel a little bit of him like that, and I suppose I actually liked him for that reason, you know. I didn't at first. That's the weird thing, isn't it? You know, I didn't.
Or whatever, which he has admitted in these weird skits. But the other thing was just like the ability to switch on and to have a teacher who has a background in mental health, which I was able to confirm, believing that there was some sort of a pathology that was driving that and that he's had that for a very long time. Interesting enough to share, weird, and I just feel like that's creepy to be like crying in front of class and turn teacher and be like, I was acting. Everything that you just saw was not real. It's just giving serial killer dressed as an actor. You know, I'm not saying Ryan's a serial killer. I'm just saying, like, if he wasn't an actor, where would Ryan be? That's all I'm saying. So anyways, that is enough about that. And also, we have A Simple Favor, which is coming up soon, coming out. That is the sequel, A Simple Favor 2, featuring Anna Kendrick. There's a ton writing on that. You know, the comments, people are enraged that this project is going forward. Poor Anna Kendrick has nothing to do with anything, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that movie when it is released. I'm going to just throw it to one more of our sponsors before I get into your comments and into your questions. And that sponsor is Pure Talk, because this country was founded on freedom. Freedom from a country that forced us to buy overpriced tea, then tried blockading us when we dumped their tea into the ocean. How did that work out? Well, I'll tell you, I married an Englishman and now I drink tea every night, so I'm not sure how it worked out. But anyways, it's time for you to throw out your overpriced big wireless contract, and you do not need to be paying $100.
Yeah, that was my little rendition of the case so far with Baldoni. A little bit of inside. If you've been up to speed so far, this is more of an update for you. Other people can go and follow Candace. She's done loads on it. She's quite in detail. So, you know, she's been doing a few episodes just for this. So go and have a look at the episodes from the beginning. I'd suggest probably about 2 weeks ago, perhaps. I'm not sure. But, yeah, I will keep you updated to see what happens after the 17th. you know, I'm surprised she probably won't have a nice Valentine's weekend with her husband. You know, she obviously has some hidden issues with her family. Her husband, Ryan Reynolds, she probably fucking irritated by him like everyone else. He's a narcissist. You know, it's not easy, you know, being an actress with an actor, living together like that. Oh, you know what I mean? I can't imagine it's a good life. You know, Baldoni, he's got a real normal wife, you know. His wife's not in the industry like that. I think she helps him. I'm not sure what with, but you know, as a support wife, you know, and a beautiful woman as well, you know. I think Blake Lively had him down as a moralistic man because he's in touch with his side, his feminine side, like I'm in touch with my side, to me. You know, I can be quite dominating, I can be quite feminine, you know. So I think what she's done is overstep that line. You never, ever, 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 as a girl thing, go after someone's husband, as she's done it twice here. She's got form. The other man she was with apparently was married as well. She was with before Ryan Reynolds. And she thinks she can just, you know, woo people that way. She's not that special. You know, you can tell she's so superficial. You never have a deep conversation with that lady. You wouldn't have, you know, it'd all be about, I can imagine it's quite frustrating in the relationship that she's in, you know, reading that from his teacher. He doesn't sound like the easiest person. And even as an adult, that's I think a very serious topic, I believe, as well. The book is based on gender violence and violence, you know, against a woman, you know, Blake herself. And he comes across as the nicest person in the world, so he's a good actor. He must be really good in the film because, he had to play some kind of frustrated individual to you know, he's a villain, isn't it? You know, and the story itself, he's read the story, it's so cute, and like, I thought, wow, he actually is a sweet person, you know, which is very, very awful, you know, for him, and you think to yourself, that's so super. I hate liars. I do. I fucking hate liars. It's one of my peeves, and that's why I probably do more on that rather than I do on anything else on this program. But yeah, and I feel that what will happen here is the embarrassment will be settled outside of court, you know, because he is so daring and PC and fucking, you know, I'm not like that. I'd be really angry with someone who did that to me, but he's not gonna do that. People like that don't behave like that. But he was angry. And, well, within their right to counter-sue for that much. I mean, that is a lot of money, 400 million. Wow. You know, because the whole film, you know. It could have been up for a Cannes Award for all they know. You see, the Cannes Film Festival doesn't start till March or something like that. I'm not sure. But that's not an opportunity they're going to see, you know, because of all the bad press with everything. You know, you have to be very... And the way he was trying to interview one of the cast members there on the... It's a movie about domestic violence. It's like that, blink once, blink twice. And it's like, he's really not fucking understanding. Even Ryan Reynolds is put, you know, and also Hugh Jackman has put himself in there. And you think to yourself, you horrible parasites. You know what I mean? You're just evil. Doing this to someone's livelihood is not nice. You know? Anyway, I would like to hear what you think. I'm sorry I haven't done anything prior to this. I could do a part 1 and do this as a part 2. If you need more information about the Hugh Jackman too and about more footage I've seen, let me know. I'll give you a rundown of everything. But I hope you've liked this video and have a good, lovely, romantic weekend, everybody. Mwah.
Else doing it, but now when you look at it, I don't think it aged well.
There's a reason all men love Betty Buzz. Because at Betty Buzz, we don't test on animals. We test on men. That's a good boy. Drink up. Let him know how good it is.
Betty Buzz.
Okay, so the problem for me with this